Chapter 3. This is reality. This just in. Scientists have found numerous abnormalities within human genetics. They say, seems to resemble parts of the crystal that fell before us 100 years ago. It almost seems like the crystal's particles bonded within our genes and were passed down through generations. It was first thought that this was a rare phenomenon, but a test was done where a randomly selected few of 100 people were picked out to have their DNA tested for these chemicals. 70% of that 100 were tested positive. This case suggests that many more people have become subject to this mutation. It is not clear what this yet means for humanity. Scientists are guessing that fragments of the crystal from 100 years ago resided in our futures, who then passed their genes down to their descendants. That is all the information that we've acquired so far. Keep your eyes peeled for more updates. Back to you, Jade. Let's hear what the public has to say about this, the news reporter Jade said. So there've been some strange stuff happening around the world. Maybe humans are developing powers or something. Get real, Cow. Superpowers don't exist and you know it. Ben turned off the TV and went back to his room. While laying on the bed, he thought, it would be good to visit my parents. It has been 3 years after all. He thought with one hand in the air and the other across his forehead. I think I'll go visit them. I haven't heard from my father in quite a while either, he said aloud. Soon after that, Ben called Matt and asked if he wanted to go with him. Matt replied, Yes, it's been ages since I've last seen Mr. and Mrs. Century. So, they headed out by noon. Ben was in deep thought. Now that I think about it, my parents never really told me what they actually do for work. They just always say that they're going away on a business trip. I wonder. The location was still 3 hours away, and they were on a train, so it would be a little while before they have gotten there. Matt fell asleep on Ven's shoulder, with headphones in. Ben was about to push him off and realized that he probably is very peaceful right now. He sighed and called his mother. Ring, 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 ring. There was no answer. He called again, and once again, there was no answer. Ben started to get a bit nervous. His mother is never not able to answer the phone. Even when she's at work or in the bathroom or cooking, she never leaves her phone. It's practically a part of her, he thought. Ben kicked the empty seat in front of him in frustration. This is so annoying. Why won't she answer? He thought. But he knew that he couldn't do anything but wait the remaining 2 hours. He thought he'd try calling her when he was about 20 minutes away. An hour and 40 minutes soon passed, and Vin decided to call again. Still, no answer. What's going on? He thought. It's not like he can call his father, because his father was the type of person who didn't even believe that phones were that important. He figured that he was so important that if anyone wanted to contact him, they could have just visited him themselves, and that would have been it. Ben shook his head in frustration. Ben realized that he had no choice but to wait it out. In the meantime, he used the restroom. Soon, Ben and Matt had arrived at the last stop. Matt stressed and yawned with one of his hands obnoxiously hitting Vin's nose. Ow, you damn idiot! Vin was about to smack him on the back of his head when a man could be heard in terror. All those people. No way. How did that happen? But that's impossible. All those people. He repeated that over and over and over again. He was sitting in the seat in front of them. Matt shivered in fear and thought of what the man could possibly be so afraid of, while Vin simply ignored it and walked off the train. He figured that the man was just your average drug addict. Then suddenly, Vin remembered earlier that he had kicked that exact same chair in frustration, which had been completely empty. And the trains don't stop to let anyone on. It's an express. So how did he? Vin's thought was cut off by a loud boom. So he took off with Matt, and they ran to the location of his parents' staying place. Soon, they finally arrived. While both of them were out of breath, the first thing that they noticed was that Vin's mother's car was still in the garage. So that means that Mr. Century must not be home yet. They entered into the house. Vin yelled, as so did Matt. "Mom! Miss Century!" They checked several rooms in the stay place, and she wasn't anywhere to be found. Vin started to panic, so he sat on one of the couches with his hands palmed in his face. Matt was crying. Suddenly, there was a loud door creaking very slowly. Matt and Vin stared at the door, anticipating what could possibly be doing that. They continued to stare at the door opening as a figure walks into the room. It was Miss Century. Both Matt and Vin were relieved. After hearing such a loud boom at the train station, they had been overly reactive to everything. They failed to realize that there was a secret door which was camouflaged, with a painting on the walls making it very difficult to see the outline of the door which was right in front of them. It led to a basement. Matt ran over to Miss Century and hugged her. "Miss Century, I'm so glad you're okay. Me and Vin thought you were dead." "Hey, don't say things like that, you moron!" Vin scolded. Mrs. Century was surprised to see Venero and Matthew. She smiled and hugged the both of them. "It's been a while," Miss Century said. "You two have gotten taller since the last time I saw you," she said. "No, it's you who's gotten shorter," Vin said. As the three of them laughed and joked at each other, there was a loud knocking sound at the front door. "It must be Mr. Century," Matt said. Vin looked extremely confused. He memorized his father's footsteps when walking up to the door, and he started to get a bad feeling. As Matt and Miss Century ran to the door, Vin shouted, "Stop! Wait!" But only Matt was able to hear him. When Miss Century went to the front door, in what seemed like an instant, there was a ringing noise which resembled a sword being released from a sheath. A loud boom could be heard after. It was similar to what they heard at the train station earlier. Seconds later, there was blood everywhere. His mother was no longer standing in the same place. She was gone. The blood shed was hers. "Mom! Mom!"